It's officially cozy reading season, and November's new release lineup is unreal. I have 20 new books for you today to add to your TBR. We've got something from all the genres. We have anticipated sequels, we have a book that the description made me start to tear up, and my most anticipated new release is coming in at the end of the month. So let's jump in. First, the book's coming out November 4th. Starting off strong, we have Coldwire by Chloe Gong. This is the author of the book These Violent Delights, and this is her new dystopian series. It has an incredible premise. In the setting of the book, the world is deteriorating, and everyone moves up country to live in this glistening and perfect virtual reality. And then those who can't afford to live there live in the down country area. And from the looks of the description, there's a military academy, there's a Cold War going on, there's conspiracy. This looks like an incredible way to start off the month. Next, we have a sequel to We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, and it's called We Fell Apart. And it's a story that takes place at the same time as We Were Liars. So it looks like you have a whole new cast of characters. And it's about a girl who goes to find her estranged father and ends up meeting her brother, and a lot of family secrets get involved. And I know if it's anything like We Were Liars, it's gonna be a little bit twisty. Next is a romance, Thrown for a Loop by Serena Bowen. And it's about a hockey player and a figure skater. And it's definitely giving Heartbreaker vibes. Next up, we have a memoir. I said we had something from every genre. Margaret Atwood is coming out with her memoir called Book of Lives, and this looks amazing. Margaret Atwood is the author of The Handmaid's Tale, and just to go inside the mind of this literary queen sounds amazing. Next is a literary fiction called Cursed Daughters by Oyinkan Braithwaite, and this is a story about family and superstition. The main character is born on the day that her cousin was buried, and so they think she is her cousin reincarnated. And her family has another superstition that no man will ever make their house a home, and if they do, they will be very unhappy and have no peace. So she has to grapple with this idea that she's never gonna have someone to love or marry or live with her. Next is a short book called Other People's Fun by Harriet Lane. This one's about 204 pages, but it looks like it's gonna pack a punch. It's about two women who were schoolmates before, but were not friends at that time. They become friends as they're adults in different points in their life, and one of them has a perfect Instagrammable, perfect social media life, and it's the story of those layers being pulled back and finding out what people's lives are really like behind social media. Next is That's Not How It Happened by Craig Thomas. And this is written by one of the producers on the series How I Met Your Mother. This is about a story about a woman who's married and doesn't plan on becoming a stay-at-home mom, but she ends up having a son with Down syndrome. And because her husband is a successful writer, they lean on his career and she becomes a stay-at-home mom. And I think it's a story of grappling with that. She writes a memoir about her life, and it ends up getting turned into a hit movie. I am really interested in reading this book because it's really relatable to me. Over 10 years ago, my son had brain surgery, and then the following year he had a stroke, and I wound up a stay-at-home mom for over a decade. And I really would like to hear in this story her perspective on that and dealing with that and handling that. And I think it was the greatest thing being a stay-at-home mom, and I'm so lucky that I was able to do it for so long. I think it's gonna be really relatable because everybody's life changes course. It doesn't always turn out exactly as we expected. I think it's gonna really hit home for me, and I do think it could be really relatable for a lot of other people. Next is Like Family by Erin O. White. This is an introspective story about Ruth and Wynn, who are living this ideal dream life. At least it's ideal for one of them, on a farm with their 4 children. but there's some sort of secret that is connected to one of their best friends. And the story is about family and friendship and loss and what that all means. Next, we have Otherwise Engaged by Susan Mallory. And I have never read a Susan Mallory book because she often is published, I think, in mass market paperbacks. So I've seen her all over a place, but some reason I get resistant to those. I just feel like they're not going to be as good. But the description on this one looks pretty compelling. So it's a story about 4 women, 2 mothers and 2 daughters. And one of the mothers, when she was a teenager, was going to give her daughter up for adoption to the other mother. She was a teenager and the other woman was an older, wealthy person. At the last minute, she decides, I can't go through with it. So the wealthy mother ends up adopting another daughter, and that daughter never can seem to please that mother. And I imagine the reason that she's never able to live up to her mother's expectations is because there's some sort of resentment from not being able to have the first daughter. And all 4 of them wind up at some wedding, and the secrets and everything collides. All right, now November 11th, new releases. Next, we have An Academic Affair by Jodi McAllister, and this is an enemies to lovers fake marriage romance. It's about 2 rival literary professors who want to go for a job, but for whatever reason, it's better if they're married for this job. So they hatch a plan to have a fake marriage so they can both get this job. And it has all the elements, right? The romance, the literary professors, the enemies to lovers, the fake marriage, just all the things that I love in a romance. We have a book with another amazing concept. This is a science fiction called The Merge by Grace Walker. And in this world, 2 people are able to merge. So our main characters are a mother and a daughter, and the mother has Alzheimer's. The mother and the daughter are gonna merge so that her mother can live and be healthy. I love the idea of this book because it's gonna be interesting just finding out the dynamic of how that actually works. And then there's gonna be so many complexities. Since it's November and it's cozy reading time, we have to have a cozy fantasy. And what better than, I feel like the cozy fantasy that started it all, Legends and Lattes, is coming out with a sequel, and it is called Brigands and Bread Knives by Travis Baldree. So Legends and Lattes was about an orc who opened a coffee shop. It's just a cozy, sweet, sweet book with a little bit of conflict in it, but mostly just a cozy atmosphere. And this story is about a bookseller who gets swept up with thieves and warriors. Next up, we have another highly anticipated sequel called The Strength of the Few by James Islington, which is the sequel to The Will of the Many. I have not read that one, but I have heard so much praise about it. It seems completely epic fantasy. It has dark academia vibes. It's about a character who was orphaned and somehow becomes a fugitive, and he goes off to this military academy to undercover to unravel some sort of secret and conspiracy. It sounds like a very high stakes story with some political intrigue. Next is the book that made me tear up just reading the description. It's called The White Hot by Quiere Alegría Hudes. It's about a young mother raising her child in an intergenerational home. And it sounds like there's a lot of loud arguments and a lot of stressful and high tension things going on inside the home. And she goes to this place in her mind called the White Hot. This place called the White Hot that she goes to persuades her to abandon her child. And she goes on this journey, and I think a lot of reflection happens, and there's a lot of generational trauma. It sounds like a really complex book, and it's only 176 pages, which makes me think that it's just going to pack a punch in every single page. These are the books coming out on November 18th. Next, we have Haven't Killed in Years by Amy K. Green. This is about a woman who is the daughter of the serial killer, but no one in her life knows who she actually is. And things start to implode when a new killer starts to target her. The next is The Botanist's Assistant by Peggy Townsend. This is about a woman who is put together and organized and regimented, and a murder happens at the small university that they work at, and somehow she becomes the target after this and decides to try to solve this mystery and teams up with the university's custodian. Next up is my favorite cover, which is Violet Thistlethwaite is Not a Villain Anymore by Emily Krempholtz. And this is a cozy romantic fantasy. And it is about Violet Thistlethwaite, who was originally Thorn Witch, and she was the right hand to a dark sorceress. And she gives up that life and decides to open a plant shop. And she shares a greenhouse with a grumpy alchemist, and they team up because the town that they're living in is being overtaken from a magical plague. This has all the elements to be a cute, cozy read. Next up, I have 59 Minutes by Holly Seddon, and I picked this book because it looks like an extremely fast-paced, propulsive thriller, and I always like to have one of those on my list. So this is about 3 women who are in England, and there's a nuclear attack coming in 59 minutes, and it's the story of these 3 women trying to survive. And finally, we have our November 25th new releases. Next is The Memory Gardener by Meg O'Donoghue. And this is about a woman who has the ability to know what flowers to let a person smell, and it will unlock a long lost memory. She takes a job at an assisted living home and starts using her gardening magic there, and she starts to unearth a lot of secrets. We finally gotten to my most anticipated release, which is Best Offer Wins by Marissa Cascino. And this is a horror thriller type story. It's about a woman who's trying to purchase a home, and all the homes that she tries to purchase keep falling through for whatever reason. And she finally finds a home that she absolutely loves, and she gets so obsessed with it, she starts to stalk the people that own the home and are selling it. And I absolutely love this story because it's taking something so mundane, like buying a house, and it's turning it into a type of horror, type of eerie story. And I think one of the most exciting things about books like this is you really don't know how dark and twisty they're gonna get, and it really keeps you guessing. November is absolutely filled with new releases. Let me know which one you're most interested in the comments.